And then you should also have some paper clips. You should have 2 of these. Some conductive nylon tape. So this tape is very special because it is conductive and it's what's going to help us build our circuit. So it is like a silver color and you should have like a pretty big strip, about 3 feet. A small vibrating motor that looks like this. And the last items that you should have are 2 same colored LEDs. And one of the things that I wanted to do to kind of facilitate, because I know that sometimes when people share slides, they might go a little bit faster than your preference or a little bit slower than your preference. So in the chat, we're actually going to drop in a link so that you can follow along should you want to with the slides. So we also have Chantal and Angela helping us, just monitor any questions that come through the chat or even any questions that might come up and I don't see a hand raised because I'm, going through the lesson. So I did want to make sure that you all had access to these slides in case you wanted to move ahead or, go back and read something that, I might have gone through a little bit fast. But please know that you can raise your hand and ask questions by unmuting yourselves. And you can also ask them in the chat. We do have two of our instructors that are here to help us. So hopefully you have all of those with you. If not, grab them, find them in your box so that you can make sure that you have everything that you'll need for the project. Can I get a thumbs up if people are ready to get started? Thank you, Kenneth. Thank you, Layla. Thank you, Frick. Justin. Some of the names don't come up for some reason, but I see you, so thank you. Okay, perfect. So I think for the most part, everyone is ready to go. So first things first, instead of having you cut out the entire box, I am only going to have you cut out those 2 squares because I want to make sure that we get through building the circuit, because I do feel very confident that if we don't finish the whole cutting out of the box, that you would be able to build that on your own. So I want to make sure that we get through the actual building of the circuits. And then at the end, we can give time to like decorate and then cut out the full box and then build it. So for that reason, I am going to ask that you only cut out these 2 little squares that are indicated on your sheet. And the way I do it is I usually fold like the paper like this and just create like a little cut there. And then that allows me to kind of, just put my scissors through there and cut that out. It doesn't have to be perfect, so don't worry about it being like a perfect little rectangle. You just need that opening to be available because we are going to be putting some of our fasteners in there to create a switch for our circuit. Because we don't want your little bot buddy to stay on all the time. So we want to make sure that you have access to turning it on and turning it off as you wish. So each of your circuits is going to have a switch that we are going to teach you how to make. So go ahead and cut yours out. So this is what one of mine looks like. Just cut out one. I'm gonna go ahead and do the other one. So again, it's helpful if you just like fold your paper and then put your scissors in there. Make that initial little cut. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just make sure you get a little gap there, little square cut out. Like I said, we can go ahead and cut the whole robot out at the end because I really want to prioritize building the circuit with all of you. So here we go. Gonna start a little pile of my leftovers. So this is what mine looks like. Hopefully you can all see it. And I know Angela asked if everyone could put a thumbs up when they were done cutting those out. So I know it might take a couple minutes. I see some of you already have. Awesome, thank you, Eric. For some of you, I can't see your name, so I apologize, but I am seeing your little thumb pop out, so thank you. Okay, so I think we still need maybe like another minute or so. because I only saw like 2 or 3 thumbs. Thank you, Justin. Okay. Okay, so while everyone is still finishing up their little 2 cutouts, I'll go ahead and move on to the next slide to just talk a little bit about the LED lights. So we are trying to power our LED lights using the coin batteries that we provided. You should have all received 2 that are the same color. And the reason why we asked that they be included in the same color is because oftentimes certain lights require more voltage than others. But we found in our many years of doing these projects with our girls that if you do have 2 lights that are the same, then we've never had any problems with them turning on. But there were times when we were in the classroom and a student picked a red light and a blue light, and then we tried connecting them to a 3-volt battery, coin battery, and it just would not turn on because one of them required more power than the other. So for that reason, that's why we asked that both of them be the same. So hopefully you got some cool colors. And if you've never seen an LED like this, it's basically like a miniature little light bulb. It stands for light emitting diode. And the short lead, I always call them legs, but the short lead of the LED is actually indicating that it is negative. And then the long lead is indicating that it is positive. So you can also think back, to batteries that you've seen in your life. And you probably have also noticed that the batteries also have 2 different conductors, right? A positive and a negative. So if you go ahead and take out your coin battery, we're going to start with one of them. So you can just pick one out, take it out of the packaging. And again, it should look like a coin, kind of like a quarter. That's how they got the term coin battery. And you should notice that on one side, it's pretty smooth and usually very shiny, like you can almost see yourself in it. And then it has like a certain number on it. It usually has a voltage. And then it also has a plus sign to indicate that that side is positive. And then if you flip it over, mine has like a little bit of a texture. I don't know how well you can see it, but it's not as like smooth and glossy. And that indicates that that is the negative side. So when we are putting together our circuit, we are going to go step by step because we want to make sure that at the end, our positive side is connected to the positive side of our LED lights, and the negative side is connected to the negative side of our LED lights. So now my question to you is, can you turn on your LED lights with what I just discussed? So I showed you the positive and the negative leads of the light, and we talked about the positive and negative sides of the coin. So my question is, can you turn on your LED lights? And I would love to see some of you on camera, if possible, so that I can see your lights. But I want to kind of see if you can figure that out. So just using your light and your battery, can you turn it on? And I know some of you might be camera shy, but if you do get it on, I would love to just see the light. Awesome, okay. Perfect. Thank you so much to those of you who turned on your camera. Anybody want to share how they got it to turn on? Here's mine. So for those of you that might still be working on it, trying to figure out how to turn it on, the way that the people on who shared their screen got it on is by making sure that one of the legs is touching the positive side and the other leg is touching the negative side, right? So the coin battery is in between the 2 leads, making sure that the negative is touching the negative side and the positive is touching the positive side. So now test your other light. I just want to make sure that both of your lights work. So after you tried one, go ahead and try the other. And hopefully it works as well. And this is also a good step because engineers, you often want to test all your materials. Not often, you always want to test all your materials to make sure that everything works before you build your circuit. Because if we didn't test this out and then we built the circuit and it didn't work, we wouldn't know if it was a faulty light bulb, we wouldn't know if it was a faulty battery, or if it was our circuit. So now we know they work. Thank you to all of you who turned on your cameras. Okay. So our next step is we're going to build the first circuit. So we're going to build the one that's kind of long across our paper. And I just cropped the image so that we could kind of focus on that one and not worry about everything else going on the sheet. So everyone should kind of locate this circuit, which is the one we're going to be focusing on. And the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is to measure out a piece of conductive tape that is the length of the black line. So the black line that I'm referring to is this one right here. And throughout my presentation, I'm going to refer to the tape in different colors, just so that you can see the overlapping of them. Because in order for our circuit to work, we need to overlap our pieces of tape. So go ahead and measure out a piece that goes from about the center of the battery to the edge of that little kind of like pathway that is indicated for you. And I know that it takes a little bit of time to take off the backing of the tape. It can be a little bit tricky sometimes. So I just like to use kind of like my finger to kind of play with the edge to get it to unstick. And then we're going to go ahead and lay that tape down, just as it's indicated on the screen. So this is what mine looks like. I just went ahead and I put down the first little piece. So like I said, I know sometimes the tape can be a little tricky. It takes a little bit of time to just get it off of the white backing. But once you measure that out, go ahead and tape that down. And go ahead and give me a thumbs up when you're like, okay, we're good, it's down. My little piece is on there. Awesome. Okay, perfect. Okay. So then for the next one, we're going to roll a small piece of the tape with the sticky side on the outside. And we are going to use it to secure our battery to the location where it says battery. So for this one, we're gonna make sure that the sticky side ends up on the outside, and it doesn't have to be anything crazy. You just wanna make sure it's like, you know, big enough to roll. And we're gonna go ahead and use it to stick down our battery. And the reason why we do this is because if we don't secure the battery, then once the bot buddy is put together and it's moving around, it can cause the battery to move. And if the battery moves and it's not touching all our other components, it won't work as well. So we want to make sure that it continues to work the way we intended it. So I rolled a little piece of tape, you can see it on my finger. And now I'm going to go ahead and put it attached to the negative side of my battery. And I'm going to go ahead and stick it over where it says battery. And then it should look like this, and it should not fall off because it's stuck. There it is. So once you've gone ahead and you've rolled your tape and your battery is nice and snug stuck on there, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. And please let me know if I'm going too fast. If I'm like breezing through this and you're like slow your roll, go ahead and let me know. Okay, thank you, Sandy. I see your thumbs up. Okay. So hopefully you were able to put down your battery and it's secure. We are going to continue working on our pathway. So the next step is to measure a piece of conductive tape the length of the orange line. So like I said, I'm going to be referencing colors just so that you can see how they should be overlapping. So in this corner here, you can see that I went over the tape that I had previously put down. I want to make sure you do the same. So you want to make sure that you go all the way from this edge of the tape you laid down all the way over to this pathway where this pathway ends. And then you're gonna tape that down. We used to use this other kind of conductive tape that was like super difficult to work with. It was like a foil type of tape. But thankfully now we use this one and it's a lot easier to manage. Okay. So this is what mine looks like. I went ahead and went all the way from where the battery was and I overlapped the previous piece of tape that I had put down. And then I went all the way over to my edge here. How we doing? Got some thumbs up? Ready to move on? Nice. I see some thumbs up. Okay. So the next part is we're gonna poke a tiny little hole where you see a red dot. So for you, it should be two little tiny dots next to each other, but I wanted to just emphasize them here on my slide by using a red dot. And you want it to be really tiny only so that the little leads go through. So this is where we're gonna insert our little LED lights, but the reality is that we only need it to be big enough for these two little leads to squeeze through. So I usually use a pencil or a pen to make my hole because you don't want it to be too big. And this is like a thicker cardstock. So you just want to kind of puncture through. And my mechanical pencil's not strong enough. I'm gonna use my pan. There we go. Got one. So this step can be a little hard because like I said, the paper's pretty thick. And if it goes a little big, you should be okay. Okay. So I made my little holes there. Can't really see them too well, but you can see the puncture. And again, you just want it to be big enough for your little leads to go through. So I'll give everyone a couple more seconds to kind of get their little punctures created. And on the slide, it says, insert your LEDs so that only your leads are visible on the inside. And right now we're working on the inside of our circuit, right? And I actually put in my, can you see that? Maybe not, it's kind of hard to see, but they're in there. And on the other side, I have my LED. So this is actually the outside of the Bot Buddy. And you can see the LED light is there. And on the inside, it's kind of hard for me to show it on camera, but the leads are pushed through. So you can see the leads on that side. So once you make those little holes, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. And that way I can show you how we're gonna push those through. Okay, I see a couple, Sandy, Eric, the K image, Justin, Kenneth, thank you. Okay, so off to our next slide. So once we have our little holes, we're ready to put in our LEDs. But in order for them to be able to stay attached to our circuit, we're gonna have to have the LED do the splits. So this is kind of what they will look like once we have them do the splits. So there's a few things I want you to know before you actually start bending your leads. Number one, be very careful when you bend them because they are still very thin and fragile. So you want to make sure that you're just doing it carefully so that you don't completely like break off one of the leads. Because if you were to, then it makes that LED light unusable. And then do one at a time and note which one is the long lead versus a short lead, because the reality is that once you've actually bent them out, it's really hard to tell which one's longer than the other. So I always recommend that you look at it and you're like, okay, the one that my left hand is touching is the negative and the one that my right hand is touching is a positive. That way you can remember that and then even label it. So go ahead and push one of them through the hole that you made. So again, on the white side, you should be able to see your light bulb. And then on the other side, you should have the legs. And we're gonna wanna have it split so that it looks like this when we're done. So if everyone can look up at my slide, this is what they're gonna look like once they've done the splits. And you want both of your short leads to go towards the right edge of your paper. And then you want the long leads to end up over this T symbol of like a little pathway here. So long leads go over the T, and the short leads, we want them to kind of end up on the side of the edge closest to your paper. And this is an important step. We want to make sure that they end up on the right side, because if not, we're going to have a backwards circuit. So again, you're going to put them in. I'm looking, okay, I want to make sure my left one is the one that is positive and the right one is the one that is negative. And then I'm going to go ahead and split it. Doing so gently to make sure that nothing breaks off. And once you have it do the splits, it'll be pretty secure. And then it'll be extra secure once we actually put tape over them. So I'm just going to show you one of mine. So I just went ahead and put one in. Let me make sure I can. Sometimes I don't know, I think I'm showing it right, but then it's like not in the camera. So is that good? You can see it right there. So my shorter one, again, is towards the right. And then my longer one is towards the left, towards over that T shape. And then once you do one, you can go ahead and do your other. So you can go ahead and insert that other light. And again, making sure that you're putting it in so that the light bulb ends up on the white side where there's nothing written. And making sure that our positives are in the same direction and our negatives are in the same direction. And then we can go ahead and bring those two leads down to the split position. And this is what it looks like. So now I have both of them there. And again, the positives are going over the T pathway that you see there. And then the negatives are going towards the edge. Okay. Go ahead and give me a thumbs up if you have been able to get this step done. And if not, it's okay. Thank you. Awesome. I see a lot of thumbs. Okay. So now that our legs, our LEDs are in and we did the splits, we're going to go ahead and measure a piece of conductive tape the length of the yellow line. And you want to make sure that you tape over both of your negative leads. So you're going to connect again, overlapping. You're going to overlap on this edge, and you're going to make sure that your tape goes over your leads. If you have to scoot your tape over a little bit, that's fine. So you can just even have it be slightly more to the left so that it can be over your leads if you feel like, oh, it's not fully touching, because you want to make sure it has a strong circuit. Like for mine, I feel like my leads end right at the edge. So I probably will scoot mine over slightly. It's not going to be right over this little pathway that was indicated for me, but that's okay. So you can do the same thing. You can scoot your tape over to make sure it goes over the leads. This is what's going to help us have a really strong circuit. And I'll go ahead and show you what mine looks like in just a second. So here we go. I can never see myself. Here it is. So you can see that I went over, and you can even see a little, you know, there's the pathway that was indicated. Mine is not right over that, and that's okay. And I covered like more of the center of the leads, and there's a little bit of the leads sticking out. That's okay. We just want to make sure that it really goes over. And that overlap is really, really important because your energy can't jump. So if you have a gap anywhere along these tapes, it will not be able to make sure that the battery powers the lights.
Can you show a little higher, Christina?
Yes. Like that, Angela?
Yes, perfect.
This is when I wish I had like that setup where the camera's here and I can work and you can see it. We're not that fancy yet. Maybe one day. How are we doing with this step? Everyone taped over their negative leads? Go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Thank you. Thank you to those of you who are putting your little thumbs up. Awesome. Okay, moving on. So now we want to move our positive leads a little bit closer to each other. So I usually bend them a little bit, kind of like in a little triangle kind of shape. And then we are going to measure a piece of conductive tape that is the length of the pink line. And we're going to tape over both of our positive leads. So see how I kind of made it like a little bit, kind of like a triangle here? You want to do the same thing just to get them closer to each other. And most importantly, away from this other tape. In mine, it looks orange. Obviously, we know that it's silver all throughout, but you want to make sure that these two pieces of tape here, indicated by the orange and the pink, do not touch. This is crucial because if these two touch, you're going to have a short in your circuit and it will not work. So do not have these anywhere near each other. That's why we always tell students to kind of bend these together so that it allows you to tape over them without getting so close to this other tape. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay. So I went ahead and taped over mine. Again, being very mindful that my piece of tape doesn't touch any other piece of tape I've already put down. So it's right over here. And it's covering my two positive leads. And there's a gap, which is exactly what I was talking about, right? We want to make sure that these two pieces don't touch. So be mindful of the gap. When you get through this part, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay. So now we get to work on our switch. So we're going to use a paper clip and two paper fasteners to create our switch, because like I said, we want to make sure you have the accessibility to turn your robot buddy on and off. So this will allow us to, be able to do that from the outside without having to take apart any of our circuit. So we're going to use the paper fasteners, and you're going to insert them into the little gap that you cut out at the beginning. So you can see the outside view. That's actually what mine looks like. I already have one that I built previously. So I just took a picture of it so you could all see what the outside looks like. So as you can tell, the head of the fastener is supposed to end up on the white side, on the outside, with one leg. And then the other leg is going to be on the inside right here. And the same thing with the other fastener. So the other fastener head, again, will be on the outside along with one of the legs. And then the other leg is going to be on the inside. So go ahead and do that. And the way I like to do it is I just kind of use it as a paper fastener is used, as intended. So I sneak it in to the middle like this. So now you can see that I have one here, and then I have the other one inside, right? And now I'm gonna make sure that the head is on the outside by just bending it to the same side that my lights are on. So a little bending. And now I have, let me go back so I can see myself. Okay, there we go. So now I can see that I have the fastener head here, right? On the same side as my LED lights. So they're not alone. Now they have a little companion. Okay. And you're gonna do the same thing to the other side. So you're gonna insert both of your paper fasteners. So you're gonna have one on each side. And again, you wanna make sure that the head ends up on the outside. So you're gonna bend it toward the outside. And I'll go ahead and show mine again. So now I have the two heads on the outside. I'm keeping company to my LED lights. So once you have your fastener inside, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. And I'll go ahead and show it again. So there are my two fasteners on the white side of the paper, along with my lights. Okay. So once you have those in, go ahead and give me a thumbs up, and then we can move on to the next slide. I know this one's a little harder, especially because you're trying to put them in and make sure they don't fall out. But I promise we're gonna secure them soon, and then they won't go nowhere. Okay, I see one thumbs up, thank you, two thumbs up, three thumbs up. Okay, awesome. Okay. So this next part is just us securing down our fasteners. So you're gonna measure 2 pieces of tape, the length of the aqua line and the green line. So I want you to notice that the aqua line goes over the pink tape all the way to the top of this fastener here. And then the green line goes over the battery and over this fastener here. So 2 separate pieces of tape, one that connects the battery to the fastener and the other one that connects over our LED lights to the other fastener. And that should secure them in place and also pretty much complete our circuit. We'll just have to add the paperclip last. We're almost there. And the other circuit is a lot easier because it's just one component. It's just the vibrating motor. And again, just make sure you're taping it down nice and secure. You want to make sure everything is really like connected because that's going to make for a stronger circuit, making sure everything is getting powered. Okay. So this is what mine looks like. I just went ahead. So this is the tape that I put going over my battery to my fastener here. And then on the other side, I have my fastener tape down all the way over. And again, look at that overlap, right? With my LED lights, the positive side. And I'll go ahead and show it again, just so you can see it in real life. Here's my tape going over my battery and over my fastener. And then the other fastener is here. I went over it all the way to my lights, the positive side. And look at that overlap. We want to make sure we overlap it, our tape. We don't want any gaps in our circuit. Once you get that done, go ahead and give me a thumbs up, and then we can move on to the next slide. Okay, see 1 thumbs up, 2, 3 thumbs up, 4, awesome. And then the next step is adding our paperclip. So for this one, you can kind of see the way that I did it, right? And I have that this is how we're going to test that our circuit works. So we want to loop it around one of them so that it's secure around the head. And this part can be a little tricky, so just be patient. But once it's in there, it makes it a lot easier. You just gotta get it fully in there. Awesome. Okay, so I was able to put mine in. This is what it looks like right now. And then I'm gonna go ahead and open up. You can tell on my slide that I opened up the paperclip a little bit so that it creates kind of like a hooking effect. So you can do the same thing to yours. And then once you hook it, even before you hook it, as soon as it connects, you should see your lights turning on. But once you hook it, then it's like really secure and the lights will stay on. Because now it's making contact. So even though before there was that little gap in your circuit because of the little cutout we made, now with this switch, we can control the open and closed circuit. So here's mine. I hooked it. And then now my lights are on. So open circuit is when there's a gap. Closed circuit is when there is no gap. And when you have a closed circuit, your lights should turn on. If for whatever reason you are connected, you have your paper clip there and it's not turning on, then I definitely recommend that you look at your tape, make sure it's overlapping in all the areas it should be, and that it's not overlapping in any areas it shouldn't be. Because like I said, if your tape's connected in this section, for example, right here, if it connected there, then that could create a short. We want to make sure we have a gap here. We don't want our negative pathway to be touching our positive pathway. We always want positives together and then we want negatives together, but we never want them to connect. And if your light is flickering like mine is, it could just be like that needs to be taped down a little bit better. Sometimes that happens. How are we doing? Were we able to connect our switch and turn on our lights? Okay, it looks like a few of you were. I see Eric, Sandy, the dino, the lotus flower. So some of you seem to have been able to get it on. Justin. And again, if you have questions, we do have two wonderful instructors that are able to answer them in the chat. Their names are DIY Girls Angela and DIY Girls Chantal. So either one of them can help answer any questions that you might have specific to why something might not be working. Okay, so I know we have about 17 minutes left. So I want to go ahead and move on to the next circuit. I think you'll be able to accomplish this one a lot faster just because it's very similar to the one we just did. But I wanted to see if you could turn on your vibrating motor the same way you turned on your lights, just with your coin battery and your little motor. So I wanted to see if you could turn it on. See if you could figure that out. So here's mine. I will say I'm holding the little metals with my nails. So if you use just your finger, I feel like it doesn't work as well. But hopefully you're able to turn it on. Sometimes it'll work okay with just your fingers, but sometimes it's got to be really like a secure connection. Did everybody test out their motor? Does it work? Because again, we want to make sure that we test it out. That way, if something were to happen, we know what the issue is, right? Perfect. Awesome. Okay, so then let's build our last circuit. So for this last one, we are going to start by taping down the blue wire to the little circle where it says battery. And I'm not sure if your vibrating motor came with a little piece of tape, but if it did, you can always like secure it down, or you can secure it the way that we secured the battery as well. Okay, so did everyone get a chance to tape down their blue tape to that little circle where it says battery? So I'll go ahead and show you what mine looks like in just a second. So all I did was grab my blue wire and put a little piece of tape over it so that it's over my little circle. And that's gonna be facing the bottom of the battery, which is what we want because the blue wire is negative. It's the negative conductor. So now we're gonna do the same thing we did previously. We're gonna roll a little piece of tape so that we can tape down our battery in place and secure it. Sometimes the tape is a little tricky.
Is the blue wire going on top or under the battery?
Can you repeat the question one more time?
So the blue wire is going under the battery?
Yes, it is. So we're gonna roll our tape and we're going to leave that little blue wire under the battery because that blue wire is the negative. So we wanna make sure it stays touching the negative side of the battery, which is the bottom side. So here's my little roll of tape. I'm gonna go ahead and put it down over that blue wire. Great question. So now it looks like this. And the blue wire is under there. As you can see, it's kind of, you can still see the extension of it. So once we do that, then we want to go ahead and insert our fasteners again, the same way we did for the other switch, with the little head on the white side, on the side where the other fasteners and the other batteries, the other LED lights are at. So we're going to go ahead and insert those. That way we can secure them and complete our circuit. And then remember to bend it out so that the head ends up on the outside. And I know some of you might be having some different issues, but I will be sticking around if anyone, because I know that the workshop ends right at 11:30. Is there another workshop that the students go to like directly after this?
Yes, there's a college buddy program that begins at 11:40.
Okay. So I can always stick around for a few minutes. That way it still gives you time to make it to the next one on time to see if there's any troubleshooting that we can support with. And then once we have our fasteners in there, then again, the next thing is to start taping them down. So we're gonna start by measuring out a small piece the size of the aqua line. So go ahead and measure that out. And it's gonna go over that fastener. And if the motor didn't work when you were trying it with your hands, it could work with the circuit. So sometimes, I know for me, last time when I was trying it with just my fingers, it was not as strong as when I actually built the circuit. So chances are that that could happen for you as well. So even if it wasn't working initially, it might work once it's built. So here's mine. I just went ahead and put my fastener in there and I taped over it. And then the next one is connecting our battery to that piece of tape. So again, that overlap here is very important. So you want to cut a little strip of tape that goes over the battery and over the previously placed tape. Don't forget to overlap it. It's going to help create like a stronger connection for you. So here's mine. Went ahead and went over my battery and over that piece of tape I had just put down. And then the last piece of tape we need is to make sure that we cover the red wire over to the other fastener. So we want to connect the red wire and the fastener. So look at this little green line here. Cut a piece of tape that is going to help you go over your red wire all the way to your fastener. And again, just make sure everything is taped down as strong as it can be. Run your finger over the tape to make sure it's secure. This is what mine looks like. My red wire and the fastener. And on the other side, I have the fasteners again. And like I said, if your motor came with a little piece of like tape, you can go ahead and tape that down to your paper. If it didn't, you can always create it just using the conductive tape. And then like we did before, we want to create a switch for this one. So we're going to attach a paper clip again to one of your fastener heads and then create that little hooking so that you're able to hook it open and shut. And again, the open circuit does not allow the energy to flow through. So that's when it's in the off position. And then the closed circuit is when it is connected and your pathway is completed and it allows your vibrating motor to turn on. So go ahead and add your paper clip now. Okay. That paper clip is in. And then, like I said, once it starts touching the metal, you should be able to hear and feel it vibrating. It's pretty loud against that paper. And I know we only have 5 minutes left. That's probably not going to be enough time for us to color our different figure character. But I do feel like you already did all the heavy lifting because your circuits are done. So in the next 5 minutes, we can go ahead and color whatever character you decided you wanted to use. And then the last thing is just to cut out your box and actually build it and put it together. You will need tape to put your box together. I recommend using regular tape. So even if you have any leftover conductive tape, do not use it, because if you were to get any of the conductive tape to touch any of the components in the wrong way, it could just mess up your circuit. So if you have like Scotch tape at home or even any kind of tape, you can go ahead and just use that. I would not advise you to use any of your conductive tape to put together your box. What characters are you all thinking about using? I'm curious to know. Maybe you can drop it in the chat. Which one are you going to cut out? I decided I'm going to do Darth Vader because I have red light bulbs, so I think it'll be cool. But I'm curious to know what you picked out. I know there's some like creatures, and then there's like Powerpuff Girls, and then a bunch of the Star Wars. So go ahead and drop it in the chat. Kenneth said Buttercup. I love Buttercup. And it's cute when, you know, they're all lit up and they're like twirling around on your desk. Who else? What did you pick? How are you gonna finish up your bot buddy? Recipio, awesome. The owl, yeah, the owl's pretty cute. One of our instructors once like used a bunch of different colors on it. So it was really, really like a cool little figure. And if you have a hole puncher at home, you can just hole punch the area where the lights go and then just put it over and use a little bit of glue stick to put it down. So that's one of the easiest ways because the hole punch hole is big enough to fit the lights through there. And then you don't have to worry about anything else. Somebody else is doing the owl as well, Nayeli Andrade. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else doing Darth Vader? Or are we not fans of the dark side? Amy said she's thinking about Buttercup. This was my last slide. Just remember to decorate. Pick your character. Go ahead and stop screen sharing. I hope it was helpful for you to have access to the slides in case you needed to go like faster or, you know, go back to something that I might have mentioned. We are doing this workshop again in about an hour or so. So any feedback you all have is great. I wish we could have had enough time to finish the whole bot buddy, but I am confident that you'll all be able to get it done on your own. What did you all think of this workshop? Is it something you enjoyed? Do you feel like you learned something about circuits? Maybe this is your first time building a circuit. Go ahead, Layla.
Hi. I really enjoyed because I didn't know much about circuits, and so your overview of how it works and how each process can't touch each other was really helpful. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us. Anybody else want to share anything? Alexis said, it's my first time.
I found it cool to use like the vibration part of it too, because like I've seen like a lot of like the light circuits, but it's cool to add like the vibration part to it.
Yeah, definitely. I know in the past when we've been short on time, sometimes we've only done the lights, but the vibrating one is cool because it really does allow your bot buddy to move. So once it's fully built and you turn on your switches, you'll see it spin. That's usually the motion that it does. So it goes in little circles. Nayeli said it was very fun. Thank you. And yes, like Gloria mentioned, we are going to take a picture at the end. I'm bummed out that you're not going to have your bot buddy to show entirely, but we would love to take a picture with all of you. So if you can turn on your cameras, we'd love to see you and snap a pic.
And if you want, please show your bot buddies what you have so far so we can kind of get them in the picture and show your progress.
Yeah, you can even just hold
And-
up your character next to your lights or something just to show, and you can turn on your lights. Lights always come through very nicely in pictures.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say a special thank you to the DIY girls team for putting all of this together. And I really hope you guys had fun building your own bot buddy. Let me. Okay, is everyone ready to take a picture? Okay. I'll go in 3, 2, 1. Perfect. Okay, well, this is the end of our workshop. So for those of you that signed up for a college buddy session, you can head over to your assigned rooms from the social platform. Otherwise, you can take a break between now and session 2, maybe have some food. Session 2 starts at 12:20 p.m. and we'll still be on here for a few minutes. So if you have any troubleshooting you want to do or you just want to stay on, feel free to do so as well.
Thank you, everybody. We hope you enjoyed it, and I can't wait to see how your bot buddies turn out. So share it on social media and tag us at DIY Girls.